end up taking Mridangam as a profession. I mean, I was always surrounded by music, and everybody in my family is either a musician or a dancer. And even if they don't necessarily do it professionally, it's just they have such a strong passion for it that I just grew up surrounded around that. And you know, I sort of just accidentally took to Mridangam. My dad plays, so I used to watch him practice, and just got drawn to the instrument that way. And you know, over time, as you know, I started studying with my guru, and that was such a special relationship, and to be able to go so deep into the art form, you know, I realized that this is kind of what I want to do for the rest of my life, and so that's been my sort of relationship with the instrument, and it's allowed me to find myself in a lot of ways, which I'd never expected. You know, you just sort of assume you take up an instrument because you want to express yourself and sort of just have fun with music and with other musicians. But then you never realize until you're a little older that it helps you sort of find yourself, it helps you heal and, you know, just discover things about other people, things about yourself, and just grow as a human being more than anything else. So for me, it's like this musical growth in terms of gaining new skills and being able to play in more contexts and grow that way, but then that always has to sort of tie back into growing as a human being and just learning more and just being at peace with yourself and just your own spiritual growth. Playing this instrument, which is, you know, normally played by men, in a scene that's also very male-dominated, you know, I kind of never, just, you know, relating to the instrument itself, you don't think of, you know, gender as mediating that in any way. So I never felt that growing up, just relating to the instrument itself and to the music, that it was any different for me to play as opposed to a man. But, you know, growing into the scene and starting to get into the social aspect of it, that does come into, you know, people's perception of who you are, and you get a lot of, you know, oh, you play well for a girl, or, you know, yeah, you're the best female Mridangam player I know, and it's like, okay, well that's I guess it's a compliment, but then it's also, there's, you know, such a small number of women who play this instrument that, you know, I wish that I could just be judged in a way that was, you know, on an equal playing field as any man who would play this instrument. But, you know, I just try not to let that enter into the actual music, and it is sort of cliche for me to be the one who's like, you know, gender, you know, people need to be more gender equal or stuff, you know, things like that. I think that men should talk about that as well, you know. It's sort of equal responsibility of the entire society to make women feel comfortable doing whatever they want to do, and take up music as a profession, which used to be a barrier, you know, 50 years back. And now for percussion, for women to take up percussion, even as a hobby, to just encourage that and to see that as part of what can be feminine and part of what's in the world of possibilities for women. And so if I am in some way able to help that move along, or, you know, encourage other young girls to even see Mridangam as part of their potential identity, then you know, I'm glad that I can make that kind of a difference.